Hello and welcome to Avasant's Digital Forum, Enhancing the Digital Experience, the Power of Next-Gen Apps. This event is in partnership with HCL Technologies. My name is Andriana Albert and I will be your MC today. Avasant is thrilled to have partnered with such an innovative organization to bring an hour of thought leadership and expert insights to our audience. Thank you again to HCL for your partnership. Avasant aims to make these sessions as interactive as possible, and we encourage you to utilize the chat and Q&A features on your dashboard to pose questions to the panelists. They will be answering them live throughout the session. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to today's moderator, Anupam Goval. Anupam is a partner and global head of digital transformation at Avasant. Anupam, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Andriana, and welcome everyone. So we're going to talk today about why, for every organization today, being digital and enhancing digital experience with your customers, with your partners, with your ecosystem is critical. And how do you go about that? We're hearing a lot about intelligent apps and how AI and data and analytics are enabling more adaptive types of applications that can be hyper-personalized and be enabled through rich content. We're going to talk about what these intelligent apps are and how can an IT executive go about enabling that to drive business outcomes. So I'm going to share a few perspectives with you and then get into a discussion with some of my panelists here who are really experts in their field. So if you can move on to the next slide. As we have seen, COVID really changed the trajectory for almost every company in every industry across the whole world. What is now being said is that 2021 is the year of the pivot. The dichotomy is that while there was a lot of tragedy and economic decline across the world, the global markets actually have gained 14 trillion in market cap since February of 2020. That is amazing. But what's also very pertinent here is COVID ended up killing industries and businesses that were unprepared to be digital, while propelling others who really were already on their way towards a digital transformation. So there are many sort of factors here that every organization today needs to take into consideration. And as you can see, the business rules have changed. We've rapidly moved to a digital workplace, and there is over 80% increase in collaboration and remote work platforms. We're reimagining the future of work through automation and AI. Manufacturing and other transportation and logistics firms are digitalizing their supply chains. They're disintermediating, they're using multimodal supply models to avoid the kind of disruptions we saw. We're also seeing, of course, a rapid shift to digital modes of engagement and the rise of frictionless consumer engagement. Over 70% of retail, healthcare, financial services, retail, media, and other firms are moving into virtual, touchless digital channels. And then, of course, we are seeing that there is a very important need to enhance the digital experience. Many of the B2C businesses today are moving towards a digital-first engagement model where they can hyper-personalize the experience, they can move towards adaptive apps. So, if you can move to the next slide, what are intelligent apps, right? Let's get into that. COVID, first of all, is driving this acceleration, as I just said, and adoption of AI and advanced analytics has significantly accelerated. This is based on a study that Avasant Research recently did. We're also seeing the use of AI and analytics across many of these domains, which is frictionless commerce, carbonless business operation, remote work and collaboration, digital health. And the industries where the most results are being seen are in retail and CPG, banking, financial services, insurance, and manufacturing. Next slide, please. So let's talk about intelligent apps and what do they mean for the enterprise. So by definition, these are cloud native apps that are very adaptive, meaning they don't have to be hard coded and customized as the business needs or the consumer's profile changes. They're self-healing, intuitive to use, cross-platform. In most cases, they're very self-help, self-service oriented. And of course, they enable hyper-personalization. Next slide. So what we're going to do today is we're going to engage our panelists in a conversation around how do you enable intelligent apps across the enterprise using some of these digital technologies? And at the end of the day, how do you enhance the digital experience? So with me today are some very seasoned executives. Arvind Rao is the Executive Enterprise Architect for Data and Analytics with Google Cloud. Renee Leahy is Principal and Distinguished Fellow with Avasan, and former Chief Innovation and Digital Officer with Hitachi Vantara. Sanjay Singh is SVP and Global Head for Google Cloud and Alphabet Ecosystem at HCL Technologies. Welcome, guys. So let's start with the first question. As I just discussed, COVID has spurred a rapid shift in consumer behavior, and digital experience has become an imperative for almost every company today. Whether you're in the B2C or B2B industry, it's very, very important to have this digital modes of engagement and have an application and infrastructure ecosystem that is very adaptive. So talk to me a little bit, how are enterprises enriching their digital experience by leveraging intelligent apps? And how do you see this intelligent apps evolving? So Arvind, let's start with you first, and then maybe on to Renee and Sanjay. You're on mute, Arvind, if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think there should be a button first popping up saying that unmute, please. That's what the COVID is teaching us, right? I mean, it has become part and parcel of life, the online meetings now, right? And we have evolved from where we were last 18 months, right? So the digital transformation, right, has been going on for a while, right? Especially with respect to the data and AI. The COVID has acted as a catalyst, right? A lot of organizations have been using data and have been sharing that data. The democratization of data, which was there, but people were hesitant sharing the data. The COVID, right? The pace at which they have developed the vaccination, it was only possible because of this fast sharing of data, fast sharing of insights, right? The vaccination is just one example where we saw the fast development of or the fast moving of the healthcare industry, right? We are seeing similar stuff even in the supply chain. When we had a shortage of the groceries, the paper towels, the toiletries, right? So again, the democratization of data is the key, the backbone that has made the sharing of data across the organization, across the countries, which is making this movement faster. And even the companies like Google, right, which heavily rely on data, they realize that sharing of data is not within the company. I think we need to expand. We need to go beyond the organization to share the data to make the country, the people, and everyone in and around us successful. So yes, definitely the COVID has expedited it, but it was on its path to going in that direction.
So maybe let me give
okay. Thanks, Arvind.
Go ahead, Anupam.
No, go ahead, Renee.
No, I was just going to say, I think, COVID is highlighting something that I think my perspective is, yes, it is the democratization of data, but I also think there's an economic shift to what we're, it's nano economics now. So we're talking about all the data that we have, you transition from averages to propensities, for example. Said differently, you don't monetize the volume of data, you monetize the granularity. So granularity, let's just take healthcare as an example. granularity gives us that smart app, if you will, because you're talking about taste, preferences, behavior, biases, associations, all of that nano-economic logic actually really helps devices have insight in an intelligent application way. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing in the healthcare. I mean, think about it. All of us through COVID did things like we had personalized welfare. We had our little phone to talk to our doctor. We had smart hospitals. We had concierge healthcare. Those were all nano-economic constructs. It's granular data, not tons of data about me, but very granular data about me to best serve my healthcare through this crazy COVID. So I think we got pushed into this without even knowing it had a label. And I think that's also why we see that a lot of the intelligent apps showing up.
Excellent. Sanjay, what are your thoughts?
Anupam, I think in the current situation, there is no room for inefficiencies. As I saw multiple sectors of customers across the world trying to redeploy their resources and their strategies, and many of them also had to undergo business model changes. And like what Arvind was saying, AI intelligent was an ongoing activity. It was not that the corporates were not doing it before, but in the pandemic situation, the need for speed was dramatic. And the ability to respond for companies quickly in terms of transitioning over to the new reality was immediate. Hence, we saw over 100 plus odd projects that we did in the last 12 months in this area. And I will give you one simple example, a very simple example which probably everybody can relate to. Let's suppose there is we worked with a large CPG company which has two lines of products. One was a cold line, one was a hot line of products. And in the regular business as usual motion, they had the distribution strategy, they had their fulfillment strategy, they had their shelf strategy. And when COVID hit, one of their product lines went bust. It pretty much went down dramatically. And the other product line saw a huge increase in volume. Now, think of it how a traditional enterprise would respond to that. Right from a manufacturing floor, capacity management, supply chain management, logistics, fulfillment, shelf fulfillment, and even direct to consumer kind of business model which need to be accelerated. And how do you know where to invest? Where are your biggest customers? Where the new volumes will come from? How do you plan safe manufacturing by keeping the social distancing norms and safety norms? A lot of that was done by data, AI, machine learning, vision APIs in real time, which got accelerated and which kind of masked data from their enterprise systems as well as from the available social media systems to see what needs to happen where and which are their biggest customers who are providing them. And also they were able to analyze churn ratios and predict where to put in the new distribution solution, etc. So, and I can give you multiple examples like that. There are examples in the banking industry where the banks went from being a brick and mortar to a complete digital transformation, completely online banking. And imagine what that would do from your value chain and a solution perspective. There were examples in the healthcare industry where they want to have now near real-time claims processing and solutions, and the consumer wants to know what is covered, what's not covered upfront, rather than having a shock at the end of the cycle. So I would say that COVID has accelerated the need for speed, and this will remain the new normal, because now pandemics will become a normal C-suite level of discussion, and it has to be factored into every business model and strategy and IT strategy going forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Sanjay. I would just add to that, speed and agility, the ability to pivot, because as I said earlier, COVID has made it very important for businesses to realize their consumer demand, and even 100-year-old predictive models can change almost overnight. As a business, your operating model your business model and your customer touch points need to rapidly also evolve to enable that pivot, right? So you need a different kind of an operating model. And I think intelligent apps is one of the key pillars for enterprises to be able to engage with their customers in a more interactive way, and also to be able to collect that data, which they can use then to power their supply chain and other parts of the business, right? So maybe Sanjay, we can move to the next question with you first. We've seen a lot of AI being talked about in the past decade, but I feel now the power of AI is finally coming to the fore, right? We have seen now AI kind of powering these intelligent apps. So talk to me a little bit about how AI is enabling adaptive apps and hyper-personalization. How is data being harnessed to fuel these AI-powered apps? Because at the end of the day, data is that critical fuel that you also need along with the AI capabilities.
Sure, Anupam. So let me zoom out a bit, a little bit before I zoom in on the answer. I want the audience to understand the bigger picture of AI. AI is not about just automating or some repetitive tasks. I love how Sundar Pichai said, AI will be as big or bigger than electricity. So think of that statement. It's a profound statement because it's going to fundamentally change the nation's society, capabilities, demographic behavior at every level. It's that big. And what we're doing right now is only scratching the surface in terms of specific capabilities. So the way we see AI, it's very simply put, when we go to customers and do strategy consulting work with them, we simply put them in two buckets. Either it's an innovation bucket or it's an efficiency bucket. There are multiple AI examples which we can talk about over here, which drives efficiencies of eliminating repetitive tasks, or as we like to call it, human-assisted AI. It's a myth that AI will replace, by the way, human jobs. That's not going to happen, at least in our point of view. It's only going to enhance the capabilities and improve productivity. Just the way we have seen it with every evolution of technology capability and compute capability. It only makes our life more tighter or more busier. It never gave us more time back, at least not for me. So the way we see AI will be democratized into every process, whether it be a shop floor manufacturing process, a supply chain process, and it will be a persona-based deployment models. And the holy grail of the AI is that if they can become a true neural network, where they can sense and respond based upon data changes within the environment, rather than being hard-coded, that is where the application intelligence level needs to go.
Right. So Arvind, you're of course at the headquarters of AI with Google and DeepMinds and all of that at the forefront of innovation. Talk to me a little about how you're seeing AI enabling adaptive apps and hyper-personalization.
Now let's take an example, right? We have been talking about space since last couple of weeks, right? Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos went and came back, right? It's not those two individual companies which made this space travel a reality, right? It's the collaboration, it's the democratization of data, it's the sharing of data insights, which has been happening for decades together, okay? The application that they have built to make this happen, this spacecraft that they have built to make this happen a reality, right? It's a joint collaboration of many multiple companies, hundreds of thousands of people, which made this happen, right? So to what Sanjay said, right? It is basically the power of AI that has been there for decades together, that we are seeing the reality today. Okay, so at Google, right, we know it is not easy for everyone to become a data scientist, right? It is not easy for everyone to invest, the companies to invest in those kind of resources, right? So what we are doing at Google is to make that people travel to space kind of things. Same with them, to make people get the insights of the data, right? We are building the tools, the accelerators, the frameworks that a data engineer or a system analyst can get come to know that, hey, whether his system is going to go down or not, whether his data center is going to have some challenges or not. the top of rack, is it going to perform optimally or not? So we are building those tools to make those day-to-day users get the insights. We are helping them build those applications that will help ultimately our common customer get the insights and get the value out of their data. So we are seeing a lot of trends that customer wants us to build, that we are building the framework, and we are seeing the GSI is taking advantage of this, especially the partners like HCL, who are very heavy in data and the infrastructure space. They're able to grab on those to the opportunities of the framework that we are building, and building those applications and getting those insights.
Great, Arvind. So Renee, you've been, of course, with the private sector on the end user side, right? And you've been using data and analytics capabilities for a while. So maybe you can share a little bit about your insights from a practitioner angle about how you've leveraged data and analytics along with AI to power these adaptive apps and intelligent apps.
Absolutely. And I want to maybe just draft off of a comment that Sanjay made earlier, which is all of this, the AI and intelligence apps does not mean human beings are going away. It just makes us more productive or makes us have better insights. So I think the practitioner in me says you have human-centric learning, which I'm a huge design thinking person. That's never going away. That's human-centric learning. You're also going to have machine learning, so data science and the AI. The two have to come together, and one is not going to make the other one obsolete. As a practitioner, I think to Sanjay's point, what we end up doing because of smart applications, because of intelligent apps, AI, ML, we move into an area that I consider ethical AI. And that's a human being thing. It's how do we ensure that we create AI or ML algorithms or repeatable AI ML widgets that are not biased. They have repeatable, you're being empathetic, you're making sure it supports social laws and norms. Those are the pieces then we as human beings are going to start, the design thinkers and the human component is going to start to be pushed into, so that as the AI, ML, smart apps take over. So there's always going to be a balance and attention, and we are never going to be replaced. I just think our world is going to become, in my opinion, way more interesting with some of the, probably solving some of the most difficult challenges we've seen as we move into this automated AI, ML, smart app world. Yeah.
No, and again, I think to your point here, AI is really unleashing the true potential of the human workforce, right? Taking away a lot of the grunge work, the mundane, the data intensive number crunching work, right? Which can be done much more efficiently. And it's really also enabling organizations to get their workers to be not just more productive, but more strategic in the role that they're seeing, right? And so that's why I think it's such a critical point.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say machine learning. I mean, I love the idea, right? It allows computers, or, in theory, your definition or how I see it is it allows computers to find hidden insights without us telling it to. So it's doing this in the background. So we don't have to think about pointing technology towards something, crunch through it and tell me, is there something cool and innovative or profitable or insightful in there? So that's super awesome. And if you just think about how that works in the world of business, you've just freed up a whole lot of resources. And right. To Arvind's point, not everybody can be a data scientist. So how do you enable that? And
exactly.
I think data science as a service and some of these other things start to show up as well.
Yeah, so that's a perfect segue into my next question, really. How do you make AI capabilities more accessible, right? How do you democratize AI, as Sanjay was saying? So the access to AI tools in itself is not sufficient, I believe. We need an ecosystem of applications on a cloud platform. So maybe you can address this next question in terms of how are hyperscalers bringing about this ecosystem of AI and other data analytics capabilities so that enterprises can build more adaptive and intelligent apps. Renee, for you.
Sorry. Well, so I think, and I'm looking at, sorry, I was reading the question. I think Fred posed is something that was also kind of relevant for it. I think that these become, it's iterative process. There's a great pyramid, and I'm not going to take credit for this pyramid. It came from, I think, Dr. Bill Schmarzo. They talk about, there's a pyramid that you learn through on AI, and it's actually the ethical AI business model. And you talk about, you create AI models, you create ideas, they get, and they're first they're orphaned. You create it, it's meant to be used one time and then done. But you talk about these hyperscalers, then you start talking about reusable AI ML models. And then you talk about explainable AI. So you kind of build up the pyramid, and the hyperscalers that are doing this have figured out how you get to that explainable AI. It's reusable, it's explainable. We know how to reuse it in multiple ways. And then ultimately, kind of to finish the pyramid idea, you get the one at the top, which is responsible AI. And that's where humans sit on top of that in their world of design thinking. So I see it kind of built that way. And as you see these hyperscaler partners come to the table, they start to build that pyramid, and then the human capital aspect shows up as you get towards the top of it with the value add.
Right. So Arvind, of course, you are with the hyperscaler, right? And GCP is, again, leading the charge in terms of opening up these APIs and other capabilities, right? So talk to us about what is your long-term vision in terms of democratizing AI?
You know, few years back, Google and Harvard wrote a white paper. Okay, and the message came very clear in that white paper. 97% of the organizations, they were very precise on this one. Okay, who shared the data, who were able to democratize the data, were very successful. Okay. If you remember, in early 2000s, we had a video rental company, right? They were not willing to really accept the reality of data change. We're not accepting the reality of sharing them, going online and all those stuff. They were wiped off, right? You need to adapt to the change. Okay, you need to understand how important it is for you to share the data across the organization, right? If a HR organization starts building their apps by themselves and try to work only on the data set that they have, without trying to get the insights of the other data warehouse, other data lakes, they may not be doing the efficient job because they are working on a smaller data set. They're not sharing the data across, right? So it is becoming more and more important for organizations to share the data across the organization and also outside the organization, right? If you want to get the insights of how your employees are doing, how other organizations are doing that, you have to collaborate with the data sets that are available outside, right? This collaboration is not possible just by sharing the data, right? You need to build those intelligent apps that can get the insights. The slower you are in getting the insights, you lose the customer. How much time does it take for one to move away from a search engine, right? When you are on the Google, if you do not find the insights that you are looking for or the search that you are looking for, it takes a fraction of a second for you to go to a different search engine, right? So we are building all those tools for you to hold on to and make sure that we are giving you the right information at the right level, right? So we are building those tools, not just for as a end user, as a search, for you as an organization, for you as a reputed partner. We are building the framework accelerator that will help you go to the customer and help them build those intelligent applications, help them build and get those insights from the large data sets that they have. So I'll rest my case for this one.
Yeah, so I was going to say that comes back to really what I said earlier, new data sources, customer, product, operational, that's critical. And that's that nano-economic construct. You need to always be sharing your data, but it isn't necessarily always volumes and volumes of data. We talk about the economics of propensities, and that's new sources of data, but it doesn't have to be terabytes or zettabytes, but it does need to be new and continuous. And so I think the hyperscalers are really helping figure out how to do that. I think the mind shift for the humans as we talk about those hyperscaler technology capabilities is, look, stop thinking about the averages of data. I need volumes of data, and on average, then I'll figure out some great insight. What you want is an economic construct that says propensities, right? Propensities devise new insights, and it's monetizing granularity of data, not volumes of data. And I think that's where you can start to share data more quickly without thinking I have to move, and which is physically impossible sometimes, to move terabytes of data from point A to point B to get them into a data lake. It's not going to happen, not over time and not quickly to make me not stay on one browser versus another because it's too slow. I mean, that's the reality. So I think that kind of reinforces this nano economic trend as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sanjay, to you, of course, you work closely with GCP, actually, I'm going to phrase a slightly different question that Fred Pond just asked from the audience, right? Which is very tied to this. His question is, are these intelligent applications coming from one-off application vendors, or are they more of a bundle that is coming from an application vendor, but then being integrated using automation and management from a service provider that brings their additional IP to the mix? And obviously you are that service provider working closely with GCP. So perhaps you can talk about that in this context and share some examples.
Yeah, a very interesting question. I think the answer is both. Is that if you look at SaaS providers specifically, SaaS providers are bundling in a lot of AI tooling and pre-built automation based upon workflows, industry-specific use cases, etc. And I can give you multiple examples of those. And then there are specific manufacturing companies, automobile companies, distribution-based companies, which have their secret sauce. If you divide the estate within the customers in three parts, right? The system of record, system of differentiation, system of innovation. In those three simple buckets, a lot of those system of differentiation, system of innovations are custom-built softwares and custom-built applications within customers' environment. That is where we are seeing a lot of requests coming to us for helping customers innovate and solve the specific problems I talked about in the beginning around specific use cases which COVID especially has thrown at them. Now, the issue is that when you democratize and you make AI holistic to solve a process problem, it cuts across the entire value chain. So you will need to integrate to your SaaS, you need to integrate to your custom apps, you need to integrate to your devices, whether it's an IoT device or a Google Assistant or Alexa, whatever the case may be. So the entire value chain needs to be looked at from that perspective. So we are seeing both sides of the equation, and the beauty is the solution for both is the same. The solution for solving that problem is basically on movement of data and analyzing of data at the core. If you recollect, about a few years back, we had this API economy model, where the companies which did very well, especially in the retail sector, in the fast food sector, Starbucks comes to my mind as a great example of an API economy company, which opened up their internal applications and allowed the wider ecosystem to develop solutions on top of them. And they were able to create a much better solution for the franchisees, for their employees, for their customers as well. Think of this of AI being also, I believe it will go in the same direction by democratizing of the data and opening up to multiple people to develop their own application. And Google has a very interesting tool called Vertex AI, which they have recently launched, which helps consumers and customers to develop their own application very rapidly. So I believe that the success and adoption of AI at scale will happen by making it very, very simple. Just the way nobody comes to train you and me on how to use a cell phone. We are able to learn on your own. I think AI has gone in a different direction.
I want to add one thing to what Sanjay said, if I can. If you look at the website development, right, which actually kicked off in late 1990s, early 2000, right? Now each and every company have at least few websites, right? you earlier used to go and call customer service number to get that stuff. That has changed to now you have the IVR. Now you don't even have to go to the IVR. You can be on the website, okay, and start asking the question. Most of the websites have a chat bot now, right? They will be able to solve most of your questions, right? That's again the democratization of applications, and they are able to. It's not again reduction in the manpower, not at all. Those people who were on the IVR, they are able to do a better job. They are able to help the business users do more things, right? So to what Sanjay said, we are helping organizations move faster, okay, and do better work, get the value out of their data.
I'll give you another interesting example, Anupam, is that within HCL internally, we have deployed this technology. And our biggest assets are our people. We have over 150,000 plus associates worldwide. And we looked at the HR management of such a vast resource base. And so HR has multiple functions, right? Routine functions, back office functions, enablement, payroll, HR, talent management, development, etc., etc. So we launched our own virtual HR called Natasha. So she's available online 24/7. It's a completely AI-driven virtual representation of the HR function. A lot of the routine manual issues she is able to handle on their own, which is deployed on a very powerful AI platform. And it keeps getting enhanced and enhanced, allowing us to be 24/7 available across the world.
So I'm going to use a similar example. Yeah. My former company, we had Anna, and she was very similar, although she was much more horizontal and helping, right? And I think that there's a challenge and a goodness with what you just said. Natasha or Anna, they learn minute by minute, hour by hour. They learn much faster than a human being would. The flip side to that, what I found was kind of a little challenging, is you have to get people to say, I trust Anna enough. I'm going to ask her a question, and if she doesn't get it right, I'm going to give her some information so that she can be intuitive minute over minute, hour over hour, which is still faster than all of us going through university and ourselves learning. But I think there's a challenge in our impatience to get to that web browser site in 30, milliseconds. But we have to have patience to let the Annas and Natashas get smarter minute by minute. We're not talking hours and years to graduate, but we also have to have our mindset around that component of it. And I think that will be potentially one of our challenges going forward. Well, what if Natasha tells me to go do X, or what if Anna tells me that it's not quite right an answer? What will happen? I think that becomes part of our obligation to kind of be those AI smart application handlers, if you will. That's the human being component that isn't going to go away to some extent.
Right. So I think, Renee, once again, you segued very well into the next question I had for you all. And maybe, Arvind, we can start with you first. So as we move into cloud native apps and low code and rapid development cycles, are we approaching the holy grail of self-healing and autonomic apps? How is AI and machine learning accelerating this trend?
Yeah. So let me make sure I'm not on mute. So, once McKinsey said, okay, if organization are not accelerating their app development, right, with the data and AI, okay, if you are using those data and AI in your day-to-day life and you are using in app development, you will double your cash flow. The companies who are not adopting to this change, there is a high possibility, right, they might reduce their cash flow up to 50% less. Okay, that's a very important, important statement that McKinsey has made. Okay, and these are very reputed organizations, right? They do a lot of research before making this kind of statements, right? To Renee and Sanjay's friend, Anna and Natasha, right? So we at Google, right, we are making that possibility, right? We are building those framework. We are building those, making those marriages happen between the different organizations, different data sets to get those insights, right? You don't have to keep on waiting on the IVR and wait for the customer, or keep on pressing 0 or 9 to get to the operator, right? You are able to get those insights, those questions answered just by asking those questions in natural language. You don't even have to know the SQL statements to get those insights. You ask the questions using the natural language, right, that you are comfortable with. Right? And we are supporting just not the English. We are the global company, right? We understand the diversity. We understand the importance of touching the each and every individual in the world, right? We are making those data, these intelligent apps that are available for each and every individual all over the globe, right? So the framework that we are building, the tools that we are investing in, the research that we are doing in the data and AI space, right, are definitely very, very important in the rapid action development. And we are working with the partners to make this a reality.
Great. Sanjay, do you want to address that?
I think on the low code area, we are seeing a lot of implementations of that in the web, in the front end part of the application development stack, where it is more, I think, suitable for the Spring Boot, Java Boot, those kind of rapid development frameworks, kind of an area. And like I mentioned, low code, no code, or regular agile development, this all means to an end. These are all development methods which finally have to render to an AI-based application architecture. They think the important thing is to design your application architecture in a way which allows you to infuse real-time environmental data and make intelligent decisions based upon a ethical AI deployment governance, like what Rennie was saying, right? We shouldn't allow them to get out of bounds, because it's a slow evolution as we learn to trust each other's process execution capabilities.
Okay. So let me ask another question that was asked by Jim Rinaldi just a while ago. So he's saying, I feel the potential for smart devices like Echo or Google Assistant have the potential to deliver answers to business-specific questions. Do you see this growing as an alternative to other smartphone apps? Who wants to take this?
I think I'll give it to Arvind.
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes and no. Okay, no matter what, whether the devices are going to take over the smartphone or not, but the smartphone is going to be in our pocket. It is going to be in our car. The car might also become more intelligent. Most of the cars nowadays have an assistant with you, right? If you look, most of the cars after 2020 that we are seeing that they have built. Okay, if the COVID would have not hit them, by this time, I would say 70% of the new cars would have had some kind of assistant with them, and you would have been talking with them, right? So, I mean, the devices would remain, but may slow down. Okay, but there could be other devices like your security device or your thermostat. They might become more, they will become more and more smarter. You will start talking to them directly to them. You will have your assistant directly into those devices, right? The smartphones will be there. The devices will continue to be there. I mean, at least we don't see they are going to go away, but they're going to become more and more smarter, and they'll be able to communicate with the devices more freely, whether it is within the platform or across the platform. They will be able to communicate. And I don't see they're going away at least next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, but frankly, we are seeing Echo and some of the other devices being used as front-end engagement platforms for other intelligent types of applications. For example, I think, I'm not sure if it's Echo, one of the devices has a now integration with Wells Fargo, where you can actually check your bank balance through an API-based interface, right? And have a conversational sort of an interface, right? So I think there is a sort of a trend in that direction.
So Anupam, I kind of see it as, it's omni-channel. Like all of us kind of interact slightly differently. Do I like visual? Do I like vocal? How does that work? And I think there's the AI, the Alexas and the Googles and all that is not going to go away. I think it becomes one more discrete way of collecting data as we're moving to really an economies of learning, and ultimately, like I like to say, we will eventually be a knowledge-based economy, and that's smart city, smart airport, smart healthcare, all of those things. And the more devices or more ways that we can collect that discrete information, device insights specific to a human, I think will just be additive to getting us to that knowledge-based industry, or the economy of learning. I don't think it's either or from my perspective.
I'll give you one more example. 10, 15 years back, if you had gone to the dentist, you would have had two people, one the actual dentist and his or her assistant taking the notes, okay, or based on each teeth, whatever the notes that this is 2 inches, this is 3 inches, or you have a cavity or whatever. For each teeth, she has to make a note, right? Since last 3 to 4 years, what I see is you have only dentists directly taking the notes and talking to the assistant, not the assistant. It's a machine that she's talking to, right? Now look at that. I mean, the assistant, she is able to do better job. She is actually doing some research. She is working on her filing, and she is working on more productive things. So the devices are not going to go away. The devices are going to be in a different way. It's going to be used, right?
Yes,
we have more and more productive users.
Yes, so Arvind, I'm going to use that example. So the last, it was just recently, thank you, COVID's almost gone away, hopefully, so we can get teeth on our regular faces now. But it was a tiny little 3D scanner that scanned the teeth. So the assistant was scanning the teeth to predict wear and tear, that they then send digitally immediately somewhere else to learn about me, my detailed teeth, to say, here, next time you come in, we're probably going to do this, and this to help your teeth not wear so bad. That becomes her role or his role in that exercise. No more writing notes and all of that. That's just gone. And I think that is also the example of discrete. So it's discrete to me, but it's part of the knowledge, the economy of learning that also goes to the wherever in the sky to start predicting wear and tear on teeth. I'm another data point in an anonymized way. It's a great example.
Yeah. Okay, well, Sanjay, I mean, we're seeing now, of course, a rapid acceleration in digital transformation across different industries, but which industry do you think are adopting this faster? And where do you think intelligent apps are being leveraged more to kind of reshape the digital experience? Retail, healthcare, financial services, travel?
Oh boy, that's a
maybe
hard question.
Examples as well.
Yeah, well, that's a hard question. I think the question should be which one is not adopting. I mean, it's pretty pervasive. It is being adopted in almost every industry sector that we are dealing with. You could plot them as early adopters, laggards, and scale adopters, but we are seeing this adoption happening in almost every industry. Let me give you some colors which could be useful. I talked to you about the retail CPG industry earlier. I can give you multiple examples of there where there are customer behavior patterns being studied, real-time supply chain being jigged based upon design patterns that's coming from the social media. And unlike earlier, where retailers used to follow rigid season-based patterns of assortments and merchandising, end of summer, end of fall, end of winter, etc. We are seeing some advanced retailers doing it in real time now, no longer waiting for seasons. They are looking at what is the buzz all about, mashing that up with their supply chain data, and rejigging manufacturing, merchandising, and liquidations on the fly in real time, using data as the main algorithms and meshing. So that's one interesting example which we have seen. The other example I will give you in the utility industry, which may not be very relevant. So one of the biggest problems in the utility industry is linear asset management. As to how do you manage your linear assets which are deployed in the field. Now, what by linear assets, I mean, just for simplicity, let's take an example of distribution lines, by where we get the power to your homes. Now, there is a complete maintenance schedule which is required to run on a distribution line, where you need to monitor the health of the distribution line, the poles, the tree cover, storm warnings, etc. That takes months and months of manual inspection. And now we have HLS solutions are doing this completely automated using Vision API and a drone-based delivery system, which then feeds back into their preventive maintenance schedule and also helps customers schedule maintenance visits and manage their workforce accordingly. The similar extension of that technology and architecture is an insurance industry, where the architecture is the same, and the solution is the same, the use case is different. The use case is of real-time claims processing in terms of accidents, where we are able to deploy those, either be a phone device, a camera-based device, or a drone-based device for doing surveys of damages, which doesn't need to be only automobile, could be commercial property, could be storm damages, etc. And that is fed into the process of the claims process using an automated and complete AI-based algorithms. We are seeing a lot of insurance companies also able to give customized insurance quotes for car insurances and able to cut down the process from that perspective. If you come to a banking industry, 2 or 3 use cases are know your customer process, KYC, that has been automated and deployed, and then also a lot of anti-money laundering capabilities are being tracked and being developed using these intelligent apps and this data and AI models. Healthcare, everybody knows about it, automated recognition of radiology reports, studying of those reports, assisting doctors in diagnosis. Arvind talked about the COVID vaccine is a great example. COVID vaccine would not be possible if this AI machine learning data capability didn't exist today. We'd be still struggling.
Absolutely.
And multiple examples like that, but hopefully it gives a sense to you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're coming towards the wrap up of our program today. So I'm going to ask one last question to you all, and maybe Arvind, you want to address this first. It's kind of related to what Sanjay was just talking about, right? Ultimately, all of these, AI-enabled intelligent apps have to drive outcomes and deliver ROI, right? How do you measure business KPIs and select the right use cases where business value can be maximized?
See, that's the bottom line, right? Ultimately, it's a KPI. So we started our discussion with the data-driven the organizations, right? How you want to democratize, how you want to make your application this one, right? So at Google, right, we are seeing the trend where the data warehouses and the data lakes are merging, right? They don't want to worry about or know where the data is stored, how the data is stored. We are bringing our capabilities closer to where data is there, so that you can get the insights. So you can get the insights of the data, intelligence of the data apps, okay, and ultimately get those KPIs where the data is residing. We don't want to ask the organization to bring the data here, we'll mine it. No, it doesn't matter, right? So that's the reason our the analytics engine that we are building, right? We are bringing closer to the other hyperscalers too, so that the organizations wherever they are, they can get the insights and the KPIs that they need to make it happen. Okay, and we are building a whole set of tools to make those get those KPIs easier to the organizations and in a more meaningful and more readable way. Okay, so to wrap it up, right? Basically, I mean the utilities, the frameworks that we have built that makes the data engineer job, the data analyst job, right? To get those insights from the data, from the to get those KPIs easier accessible to the organizations. So we are working towards that one, right? That will make the organization successful in measuring those insights from those KPIs.
Yeah, Rene, and then maybe Sanjay, any last quick thoughts?
Yeah.
You know,
Sorry.
yeah, sorry, Rene.
Okay.
This topic always close to my heart, so I jumped on it. So everything is about business outcomes, whether it be it an AI deployment, ERP deployment, any automation tool. I think the fundamentals of creating a business case does not change. Your input cost, whether it be and you can use the ABC based method of costing. And by creating new capabilities in business models, we have a full framework of how do we create business cases for customers. And frankly, the fundamentals of creating a business case have not changed. It is the same. What was there a few years back? It is the same way. Just the way you quantify the benefits of this technology is different. That is where the art and the science merge together.
Yeah, absolutely. Renee?
I'm just going to take maybe a macroeconomic view of it. So at the end of the day, I think the law of diminishing returns, which we all know very well, I think that we actually have a new economic value curve that gives us more return because of, again, what we're doing now. We're doing it with less data, more precise data, more discrete data, and we're learning through the AI model. I think that whole do more with less data is actually going to give us more new KPIs and potential for value, whether it's customer, whether it's product, whether it's wellness for society. And I think that's where we're going to see the new benefits of what we're doing here as we get to smart cities, smart health, smart whatever, in sharing our data.
Thank you, Renee. I think you gave a perfect summary to this, and thank you to all the panelists today. I think you really covered this very interesting spectrum of how to bring together AI, data analytics to create these intelligent apps and enable that richer digital experience. So thank you again to everyone. Back to you, Andriana.
Thank you to all of today's speakers and attendees. We hope that you enjoyed the session as much as we did. And a special thank you to HCL and the team for partnering with us. A replay of Avasant's digital forum and the slides shared during the session will be emailed to all attendees shortly. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you at another Avasant digital forum soon. Cheers.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.